Picture this. It starts with the sound of a key turning in a lock, metal on metal, the heavy click of a deadbolt sliding home behind you. 3:30 p.m. The house is silent. No text checking if you're safe, no camera feed, just you, a bag of chips, and 4 hours to kill before an adult comes home. Society calls the latchkey era a tragedy of neglect. They are wrong. That silence didn't break you. It calibrated you. It taught you that if you break a glass, you sweep it up. If you are hungry, you feed yourself. If you are scared, you handle it. You didn't grow up lonely. You grew up autonomous. You aren't emotionally unavailable today because you're damaged. You're unavailable because you learned the hardest lesson of all. Help isn't coming, and you prefer it that way. This is why you have that reaction when people complain about burnout after a 4-hour shift. It's not that you don't have empathy, it's that your brain is wired for a completely different level of friction. You look at them and think, the house isn't on fire, nobody is bleeding, what is the problem? See, you aren't just tough, you are a product of a specific developmental environment that researchers like Strauss and Howe describe as high contingency. That is fancy academic speak for a very simple reality. You grew up in a world where actions had immediate, non-negotiable consequences. There was no buffer. If you forgot your coat, you were cold. If you missed the bus, you walked. If you broke the rules, you didn't get a talking to about your feelings, you got grounded. Your brain learned to predict outcomes in real time. It's why you were always 3 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. While they are discussing how they feel about the project timeline, you have already calculated the delay, identified the bottleneck, and figured out who is going to get fired if you don't step in. You aren't psychic. You just learned, at age 9, that nobody else was going to fix it. But here's the twist. This hyper-competence, it came with a cost that nobody talks about. You learned to view your own needs as a liability. Think about it. When you were a kid, if you went to an adult with a problem, you were often told to stop crying or deal with it. So you did. You suppressed the need for comfort until the need disappeared. Psychologists call this dismissive-avoidant attachment. But let's be real, that sounds like a disorder. For you, it was a survival strategy. You learned that vulnerability invites chaos. If you show people you are struggling, they either panic or, worse, they try to help and just make it messy. So you built the wall. You became the person who says, "I'm fine," while the building is collapsing behind you. You became the friend everyone calls for advice, but who never picks up the phone when you are the one hurting. Not because you don't have friends, but because the physical act of asking for help feels like defeat. It feels like you failed the assignment you were given in 1978. Handle yourself. And this is where the exhaustion sets in. Because you aren't just handling yourself anymore. You are handling everyone. You are the sandwich generation, squeezed between aging boomer parents who refuse to listen to doctors and digital native kids who need constant emotional regulation. You are the analog bridge between 2 worlds that don't speak the same language. It's the sheer volume of invisible admin. It's knowing exactly where your mother's living will is filed because she won't deal with it. It's managing her medical portal passwords because she can't remember them. And simultaneously, it's monitoring your teenager's location on an app because the world feels less safe than it did in 1982. All while running a department at work because the 20-somethings need a mental health day. And you do it without making a sound. You don't post about it, you don't hashtag it hustle, you just absorb the pressure. Because that is what bridges do. They carry the weight. But, and I need you to hear this, it is starting to wear on you. There is a moment, usually around 2 a.m., when you stare at the ceiling and wonder, who is taking care of me? And the answer, the terrifying answer that your brain screams back, is nobody. Because you taught them not to. You were so good at making it look easy, so good at being the low-maintenance one, that you accidentally trained the world to believe you don't have needs at all. You optimized for autonomy,
but you ended up with isolation. Yeah, and I don't even know if that trade was fair, because you got what you wanted. You just didn't realize how quiet it would be. And here's the part nobody says out loud.
Look, I know you aren't going to change. You aren't suddenly going to start sharing your truth in a circle. That's not the game you play. But you have to admit there is a glitch in the logic. You value competence above everything, right? You despise inefficiency. You pride yourself on being practical, on fixing what breaks, on handling what leaks. So let me ask you something simple. You wouldn't ignore a crack in your own ceiling and call it strength. You wouldn't refuse to sit down for 10 years and call it discipline. So why are you doing it to yourself? The friction you feel right now isn't because you're getting old. It's because the strategy that kept you safe in an empty house is the exact same strategy that is drowning you in a full one. You are still waiting for the adult to come home and tell you it's okay to stop working. But you're the adult now, and you never gave yourself permission to put the keys down.
That silence you crave, it isn't antisocial. It's the only place you can hear yourself think. The world tells you to connect more, share more, feel more. But maybe you aren't hiding. Maybe you're just recharging. You built a life where you don't need anyone, and society treats that like a crime. It isn't. It's a fortress. You earned that quiet. But I have to ask, are you protecting your peace? Or are you just scared of what happens if you let someone else hold the keys for 5 minutes? Subscribe if you know exactly what I mean.